Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. The Trudeau Liberals are telling the Freedom Convoy truckers to go home as blockades continue at the Canada-U.S. border crossings. Bridge City News has a team in Ottawa covering the trucker rally. We have the latest, including how the Billy Graham Rapid Response Team is helping out. And the faculty at the University of Lethbridge has voted to go on strike. We have the details.
Your nation. Your province. Your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. The fundraising platform, which is being used to support the truckers of the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa, has allegedly been frozen. The Ontario government won a court order blocking the use of any and all monetary donations made through the Freedom Convoy 2022 and Adopt a Trucker campaign pages on the Give, Send, Go fundraising platform. The initiative has so far raised over $8 million US for more than 92,000 givers in support of the truckers. You know, the world has been watching news outlets from around the globe that are all in Ottawa covering the freedom protest, including Bridge City News. Our Canadian truckers have camped in our nation's capital for close to 2 weeks now, and they say they won't be leaving until the government scraps a lot of the COVID-19 mandates, including having cross-border truckers vaccinated against COVID-19. So far, 1,700 tickets have been issued by police and around 20 arrests have been made in our nation's capital. BCN has a team covering the trucker protest. Video journalist Naveen Day joins me right now from BCN. Nav, what's the mood like with the truckers and their supporters? Are they despondent that the Prime Minister has not met with them yet? Or has the resolve strengthened that much more?
Well, Hal, the truckers are here for one reason and one reason only. They want to end the mandates. So many of them were disappointed when the Prime Minister refused to meet with them, but they were also not surprised. So as long as Justin Trudeau refuses to meet with the convoy protesters, it doesn't seem like this protest is going to end anytime soon.
Now, there are reports that 22 more trucks have left the rally in Ottawa and only a few hundred trucks and their supporters remain. What have you seen?
It's hard to say how many people are here, Hal, because the protest is actually broken up into different cells as police barricade different areas. So, but in the main area here, close to Parliament Hill, it's easily within the tens of thousands. So you literally have a city within a city. But the numbers are always fluctuating, from the daytime to the evening, from weekdays to weekends. But what we do know also is that there's another convoy that's reportedly headed towards Ottawa. It's called the Blue Collar Convoy, which consists of electricians, carpenters, and drywallers and other tradespeople to show support. So we could see a big increase of numbers over the weekend.
Thanks so much, Nav. That was BCN video journalist Naveen Day joining us from the Freedom Convoy in downtown Ottawa. Now, earlier in the day, Naveen Day had a chance to catch up with the chaplain of the Billy Graham Rapid Response Team, who says they are in our nation's capital to offer support and simply to pray.
The Billy Graham Rapid Response Team can usually be seen on the site of a natural disaster providing relief. But I'm here with Merle Doherty. He says he's here at the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa for a different reason. Merle, what is that?
Absolutely similar reason. We are here to pray with people, but we also as a rapid response team will go out into the community to these types of events where we will walk the streets, we will pray with people, we will pray with people that are in the trucks, in the hotels, wherever they are, we will pray with them and bring the presence of Jesus Christ to wherever we are.
That's great. And then what kind of response have you received? You say that you're more here to listen than to preach as well. Tell us about that.
Certainly as a chaplain, that's what we're trained to do, is to use these more than this. And we do. We listen to people's hearts. But then when we get an opportunity, we will pray for them, pray to them, pray for their families, whatever it is they would like us to pray for. We will definitely pray for them.
Thank you so much for your time, Merle Doherty.
Thank you, Naveen.
You know, there are a number of protesters who took to the streets in Ottawa, blasting the federal government's vaccine mandates. They say it's your body, so it should be your choice. BCN producer Michael Clausen caught up with a couple of people earlier today who lost their jobs for refusing to get the jab.
Your body belongs to you, and it doesn't belong to the government, and they shouldn't be coercing you or withholding your employment, especially me. I actually am vaccinated, but I was forced to get vaccinated because I had to make a really tough choice between my livelihood and my bodily autonomy. And I went to school for 4 years for my degree and for my profession, and I still have student loan debts. I really can't afford to not make the money that I do. I'm very passionate about my work. I'm very passionate about my patients and taking care of people, and forcing vaccines is not the way to do it.
Okay, and how about for yourself?
I'm going to just repeat pretty much what she said, minus the working for the medical industry. I just believe that it's my body, my choice, same with everybody else. We are being coerced right now in so many ways, and the fact that I haven't been able to work for the past little while has been really hard, and I'm not willing to take the jab to get this. I don't trust it. I've also live out of a vehicle, so it's a lot easier for me to manage my finances in that way. But I do believe that everybody has the choice, the right to make their own choice on this, and we shouldn't be forced and coerced the way that we are right now.
Ministers within the Liberal caucus had a very strong message for protesters fighting COVID-19 mandates at various border crossings and in Ottawa. And that message was, go home.
I want to be clear. Those participating in the convoy are hurting Canadians. They pose serious dangers for the economy, and they are breaking the law.
These blockades are unlawful. The law needs to be upheld. I very much respect the efforts of our law enforcement officials to bring about a peaceful resolution to this. But I would urge all of those who are engaging in this unlawful activity, think about the people that you are truly hurting and stop. Open those roads, open those bridges, and let people go back to their lives. The Ambassador Bridge is a vital artery to our country, and it's a vital artery in our supply chain. It's central to the functioning of our economy and to serving all Canadians.
Now, the White House says it is closely watching the trucker protests taking place at various borders, including Coutts here in Alberta and the Ambassador Bridge in Ontario. U.S. officials say they're quite concerned about how the blockades are impacting the American supply chain.
The Ambassador Bridge is Canada's busiest link to the United States and accounts for about 25% of trade between the two countries. And so the blockade poses a risk to supply chains for the auto industry because the bridge is a key conduit for motor vehicles, components and parts, and delays risk disrupting auto production. We're in very close contact and coordination with the Custom and Border Protection Team and Canadian counterparts, Michigan Governor Whitmer, and industry stakeholders. We are also monitoring very closely and engaged with auto companies on what the impacts could be of auto parts, which is what would come from Canada, and the impact on the United States. We're also tracking potential disruptions to U.S. agricultural exports from Michigan into Canada.
A pastor from Calgary who was arrested at his home this week will have to remain in custody until next week to see if he will make bail. Outspoken street preacher Arthur Pawlowski is facing 3 charges in relation to his attendance last week at the freedom protest at the Coutts border. He was taken into custody on Tuesday before he was able to head back to the blockade to show his support. Pawlowski made international headlines last May for holding worship services during Calgary's COVID-19 lockdown. Pawlowski, a Polish immigrant who grew up under communist oppression, had a message for the Coutts protesters: "You have power now, don't give it away. The eyes of the world are on this little border, and the world is watching you." The blockade at the Coutts border is entering its 13th day. Now, the Vice President of the Alberta and Saskatchewan Division of Canadian Manufacturers, David McLean, said between 800 and 1,200 trucks cross at the Coutts border almost every day. That means over $44 million is passed through as well. Lauren Dack, NDP critic for transportation, called on the Alberta government to disperse the illegal blockade at Coutts by using its authority over commercial operators' licenses.
Through the Traffic Safety Act, the Minister of Transportation has the legal authority to suspend commercial operator licenses if they fail to follow the use of highway and rules of the road regulation. This is a step that Transportation Minister Rajan Sawhney can take today. It is a serious measure, and it would have a significant impact on the livelihoods of those commercial operators who are participating in this illegal blockade.
Bridge City News reached out to the office of the Alberta Transportation Minister Rajan Sawhney for comment, but we've yet to hear back. Students at the Steinbach Manitoba Regional Secondary School walked out of class on Thursday, protesting the government's COVID-19 mandates. There were reports that shortly after, the students were then locked out of their school.
We're here to fight for our kids so they have the freedom to express themselves, the freedom to breathe. Our kids should not be wearing masks, at all. They're part of a group of they're kids. If they get sick, they're going to get past this. It's proven that them getting vaccinated is actually more harmful than them just being kids. Like, their immune systems are strong, and our kids should be allowed to breathe. Our kids should be allowed to just have the freedom to hang out with their friends and not be scared all the time.
Always being told to pull your mask up, wear it properly, it's not good. In gym, it sucks wearing a mask because it's so hard to breathe. And then we do these sports, and then you just have to wear a mask, and then you're about to pass out because you don't get your air circulation. And I've come to that point a few times where I'm about to pass out, and it's not good.
We are here to help give the kids a voice so they can be heard. They are kind of turned into the invisible citizens that are just told what to do. And the rebellions in history have all come from this age group.
Mackenzie adds that through the protest, she hopes the students will feel empowered and are able to make a big difference in their community. And all of that snow in Steinbach, wow. But here in southwestern Alberta, we had a wind warning for most of the day, strong Chinook winds, which have brought us much warmer temperatures. Jeanette Rocher is here now with an early look at the forecast. Jeanette, the record high for this day in Lethbridge was around 13 degrees. Did we break that record?
Well, Hal, it's hard to know if we actually did break a record or not because we didn't quite reach our high of 15 degrees today. We hovered more around the 12-degree mark. The record on this day in Lethbridge was actually 13.3 degrees, so we were just shy of that. However, Raymond, Alberta, which is Lethbridge's neighbor down the road, was the hot spot in Canada today at 14 degrees. So I will take that as a win for southern Alberta, coming out on top again as the hot spot in Canada once again for the fourth time this week. Here's what's going to happen tonight, though. We're going to have a rapid drop in temperature down to the minuses into tomorrow, Friday, 60% chance of flurries and a high of 1 degree, just in time for the weekend. I'll tell you what is in store for the rest of the weekend and next week coming up later on in the newscast.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeanette. The University of Lethbridge Faculty Association is officially on strike. At 11 a.m. Thursday, faculty hit the picket line after close to 2 years of bargaining with the U of L's Board of Directors. The Faculty Association is seeking a fair settlement that talks about salary and workload inequities. On February 2nd and 3rd, the members voted 92% in favor to strike, giving a deadline of 11 o'clock on Thursday. Now, Faculty Association President Dan O'Donnell says negotiations continued right up until moments before the 11 a.m. deadline.
We were told it's going to be a long strike. That's not our position. In fact, our preference would be there's no strike at all. Our bargaining team was willing to meet with them right up to the very last minute. Our negotiating team would be willing to meet with management this whole time, right up until the stroke of 11. They called us in about 10 minutes before. We thought, oh, maybe there's going to be some movement, and instead they read us a letter about management rights.
This, of course, is difficult for students who are mid-semester and just about to go into reading week and exams.
It's really difficult. It's hard. I know a lot of us students are frustrated because some people are supposed to graduate this semester, and they have no idea if that's going to be pushed back or how long we're not going to be able to communicate with our professors. I know a lot of us are planning to continue working asynchronously with our work because we have no idea. Our reading week is next week. So if this strike lasts the week, then we go right into reading week. When you come out of reading week, usually you have midterms. So things could get pushed back, or they're just going to leave deadlines that the way they are and expect us to have our work ready. We have no idea.
Now, according to the U of L Board of Governors, quote, the negotiating team's goal is to continue to bargain in good faith. Our aim is to arrive at an agreement that is mutually acceptable. The Holy Spirit Roman Catholic School Division says that as of February 14th, students will not be required to wear masks in schools. Staff, bus drivers, and visitors are still being asked to wear a mask during the school day. Now, this will take place until March 1st, depending if hospitalizations from COVID-19 stay down. Ken Sampson, the superintendent for the division, calls the responses from parents polarizing.
Everything from, thou shalt mask forever to it's about time, please don't force this upon our children, and so on. And we've indicated all the way through this whole process that through the whole pandemic that we rely on the direction from Alberta Health Services and Alberta Education in following their recommendations. And so we were hoping for a more kind of a gradual release of health protocols and restrictions. But as we know, there's more cases in our communities than what's reported. So we are a little concerned about that. However, we're still going with the idea that we're really highly encouraging everyone to continue wearing a mask. And of course, we know we have to respect, the wishes of families and so on.
The division will also be allowing spectators inside to view school sports and extracurricular activities. The province's decision to end the mask mandate for students in kindergarten through grade 12 has some parents feeling a little uneasy about sending their child to school, while others say they're happy the mandate has been lifted. BCN's Angela Stewart has more from some Lethbridge parents.
Kids have been subjected to a heavy and I think unfair burden throughout the pandemic.
This week, the UCP government began loosening some COVID-19 restrictions in the province, starting with the lifting of the face mask mandate for students in kindergarten to grade 12.
Step 1 will remove almost all restrictions affecting children, including removing the mask mandate for all K-12 students.
And this has some Alberta parents breathing a sigh of relief.
I'm really grateful that they're being lifted.
Katrina Thomas says her daughter, who is in kindergarten, was filled with excitement when she found out that she doesn't have to wear a face mask to school anymore.
Even just telling her she doesn't have to wear it in those public areas now, she was even very excited to hear that news.
And the same can be said for this Lethbridge mom.
I'm very excited that the mandates have been lifted. I have 3 kids in elementary school, and they are also really excited.
So parents have expressed to me some concerns about that as well. The fact that, the government might have made this decision, so they were going to rely on their school board maybe to do something different, but that option is gone as well.
Bridge City News heard from some concerned parents who say the lifting of the mandate worries them about sending their child to school now, and they will continue to make sure that their child is wearing a face mask.
Should we ever have to come back to any kind of measures in the future, God forbid, that we will not affect the wellness, the freedom, and the normal lives of kids.
For Bridge City News, I'm Angela Stewart.
Well, if you're looking to attend an event at the NMAX Centre in Lethbridge, you'll no longer need to show proof of vaccination, but you'll still need to wear a face mask. Now, the only time you'll not need to wear one is if you're eating or drinking. Now, this is also the first time in a very long time that food and drinks will be served at the arena once again. And an official with the NMAX Centre says that's huge.
Having it back is something we needed to have happen for a number of reasons. Financially, it helps us reduce our tax support. More importantly, though, or equally important, I guess, is just the health of people. People they need something to drink, even if it's just water, right? People need water, pop. Food, though, can be fun. It's like I said before, it's part of the culture, part of the activities.
With the change, Gallucci says they'll be able to hire back some staff who were laid off and start using their suppliers again. The annual Care from the Heart Radiothon took place on Thursday. The event raised money for the Chinook Regional Hospital Foundation. Now, throughout the day, local radio stations chatted with doctors, nurses, administrators, and donors to share stories of the impact the donations have had on the community. Over the past 12 years, the event has raised $2.7 million. Shona Lamb, the development officer for the Chinook Regional Hospital Foundation, says the funds will go to great causes at the hospital.
So we allocate and distribute money to many different areas of the hospital, usually 20 to 40 projects a year, around $2 million total. So areas such as addiction and mental health will benefit. E-simulation lab, we've assisted with some agility in the COVID response. There's really not an area of the hospital, a department of the hospital, whether it's the emergency department or surgery, that's not touched by the donations and the monies that are raised at our events, including this one.
Last year, $260,000 was raised, and this year the fundraiser is hoping to amp up that number by an additional $15,000. The Calgary Counseling Centre has been dealing with a unique issue for a number of years now: men who suffer from domestic abuse. The Male Domestic Abuse Program delivers services to those same men. The program delivers outreach support, connecting clients with community resources, and offers a 14-week therapy group for men who have experienced partner abuse. Stéphane de Villeray is the coordinator of the program at the Calgary Counseling Centre, and he spoke at SACPA in Lethbridge and said the pandemic has amplified the domestic abuse men are facing.
Many of us are staying at home more than before.
those kinds of coercive behaviors that involve things like stalking or things like monitoring other people's movements, things like monitoring who they're talking to. There's not as much privacy now because everybody's sort of limited in where you can go. That certainly has had, I think, a negative impact on men's experiences of intimate partner abuse.
Stats Canada released a report in 2018 outlining that 36% of men reported some form of psychological, physical, or sexual violence by a partner. When women completed the questionnaire, it was around 44%. A number of Canadians have been talking about the Metaverse. It's a place where people can buy virtual land and homes, and it's where you can create a whole new world. But why has it become so popular? Astrophysicist Dr. Jeff Zwierink says one reason is that in a metaverse, you can potentially help people who have medical issues.
Imagine, if you will, setting up with relatively simple technology, just a room where people who have diseases can now come in and engage in that room. He can treat people, that doctor can treat people on the other side of the earth in remote villages with primitive technology to provide healthcare and access around the world that otherwise wouldn't have been available.
Catch the full interview with Dr. Jeff Zwierink, research scholar from Reasons to Believe, in the second half of our program. Well, we were very close to breaking a record temperature here in Lethbridge. Did we actually make it? We'll have the answer for you, along with complete weather details, in just a moment. The weather has been incredible across much of southwestern Alberta thanks to those Chinook winds. Now, those winds have been mighty, but so is the temperature. Jeanette Rocher is here now with all of the weather details. Jeanette, did we break a record?
You know, I've had my eye on that all week, Hal, thinking for sure that Thursday would be the record-breaking day for Lethbridge. We didn't quite hit it because we didn't even get to our high today of 15 degrees. We hovered more around the 12-degree mark. And in order to break that record, we should have been at 13 degrees or a little bit higher because the record on this day was 13.3 degrees. So not quite, but Raymond, Alberta, as I was mentioning earlier, did break a record, or at least they were the hot spot in Canada today at 14 degrees. So I'll take that as a win for southern Alberta. Into tomorrow, though, different story altogether. We're looking at a high of only 1 degree, 60% chance of flurries. Sunshine this weekend with highs of 7 degrees and 6 degrees on Saturday and Sunday. High of 9 on Monday. Mainly cloudy skies. Could see a chance of flurries Monday night as well. Into Tuesday, looking at a high of -1 and up to 3 degrees for next Wednesday with partly cloudy skies. So we are seeing a bit of a roller coaster effect with some low pressure systems rolling in with flurries and then back up to the pluses. Average high for this time of year is 1 degree, -11 the average low. 13 degrees was where we were at back in 1987, and in 1939 we were at -38. Sun rose this morning at 7:50 and sunset today at 5:41 p.m., so giving us just a little shy of 10 hours of daylight. So let's see what's happening for the highs across the nation tomorrow. 10 degrees, lovely day in Victoria tomorrow. Partly cloudy skies, high of 9 tomorrow in Vancouver. Edmonton, high of -3 tomorrow with partly cloudy skies, and Calgary going to be sitting at 0 degrees. So Calgary also going to see that rapid drop in temperature after the beautiful Chinooks we've been experiencing this past week. -13 the high in Saskatoon, -14 tomorrow in Regina with partly cloudy skies. Winnipeg going to see a drop in temperature as well, down to -22 for the high, and a chance of flurries as well as we look to central Canada. We are seeing Toronto with flurries and showers, 3 degrees the high. Ottawa, same thing, could see some freezing rain there. Showers mixed with flurries, 1 degree the high, 2 degrees in Montreal. Looking at some showers there as we look to Atlantic Canada, a mix of sun and cloud for Fredericton, 3 degrees the high, 6 degrees in Halifax tomorrow, 4 degrees the high in Charlottetown, and a high of 5 degrees with rain tomorrow in St. John's, Newfoundland. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
An already backed up supply chain is getting worse due to the truckers' blockades taking place at Coots here in Alberta and at the Ambassador Bridge connecting Windsor to Detroit. The Ambassador Bridge is the busiest land crossing in North America. It handles around 7,000 commercial vehicles per day, carrying a quarter of the $775 billion in annual goods trade between Canada and the United States. Officials say the food and automotive sectors are particularly vulnerable to the blockades and delays. TELUS says its fourth quarter profit jumped from $260 million to $644 million. The Vancouver-based company says its profits were boosted by the sale of its financial solutions business in December for $500 million. TELUS says its operating revenue and other income totaled $4.87 billion. That's up from $4.06 billion in the fourth quarter of 2020. Its adjusted profit came in at 23 cents per share. Analysts were expecting 26 cents. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 72 points on the day to finish at 21,531. The Dow was down 526 points to 35,241. The S&P 500 was down 83 points on the day to 4504. And the Nasdaq was also down on the day 304 points to 14,185. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 22 cents to 89.88 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 5 cents to 3.96 US. Gold was down a cent to 18.2685 US an ounce, and silver was down 3 cents to 23.18 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $12.38 per bushel. Barley's at $9.54. Canola's at $23, and corn is at $10.97 per bushel. Live cattle were down 55 cents to 142.35. Feeder cattle were down $1.55 to 166.73, and lean hogs were down 5 cents to $90.18. The Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours at 78.61 US. Recapping one of our top stories, the University of Lethbridge Faculty Association is officially on strike. At 11 a.m. on Thursday, faculty hit the picket line after more than 600 days of negotiations with the U of L Board of Directors. Now, on February 2nd and 3rd, members voted 92% in favor of strike action, and Thursday was deadline day. It appears as though many North Americans enjoy creating lives in the Metaverse. Now, what exactly is the Metaverse? Astrophysicist Jeff Zwirink will explain in just a moment. Now, many of you are familiar with the recent craze about something called the Metaverse. People who are purchasing virtual land and clothing and houses. So why is this actually happening? Dr. Jeff Zwirink has some thoughts on the issue. Dr. Zwirink is an astrophysicist and a senior research scholar with Reasons to Believe, an organization that combines science and faith. He's also author of several books, including Who's Afraid of the Multiverse? Welcome back to BCN, Jeff.
Glad to be here today. Looking forward to our conversation.
You bet. Now, what exactly is a metaverse for people who are just joining us right now? Some say it's the same as virtual reality, but can you really explain how it works?
So as I understand it, virtual reality is a part of the metaverse, but the metaverse is really just an online arena, an online playground, if you will, where people can come in and interact. And you got virtual reality that allows you to see what's going on. You could do augmented reality, which allows you to hear and feel things in a different way. But really, the metaverse is just a digital platform that allows all of these interactions to take place, and in some sense is only limited by the human imagination and the technology we can develop to allow people to interact inside the metaverse.
So some people are actually purchasing virtual homes. Why would people knowingly spend real money on property that doesn't actually exist, except online?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in some sense, there's people that spend money on stuff that I don't understand out in the real world. But I do know this. There's probably people who are doing it because there's a status to it. People want to have the latest and greatest thing. I imagine a lot of people are doing it because there's going to be some good business opportunities where people, as people start interacting in the metaverse, if you can build an experience that people want to have, whether it's a good meeting room, whether it's a cool vacation out through the Grand Canyon or something like that, people are going to want that. And the better the real estate or the better the location and the better it's marketed, you're going to have an opportunity to have a good business model there.
I wonder if it all started with those little games. I don't know if you remember the little handheld games where you had a pet, like a pet dog. You had to take care of it. You had to feed it every day, and sometimes you had to buy food or give it a shot or whatever, take it to the vet. Maybe just kind of expanded from that into the metaverse. What are your thoughts?
Well, those are the sorts of ideas that are being played out there, and I find that illustration interesting because, in some sense, I would really rather have a regular pet or whatever. But it gave people an opportunity. I mean, there was some teaching value to that of teaching responsibility and discipline and regularity, and so that's kind of what I see playing out in the metaverse. There is that it's going to be a pretty remarkable tool. The question is, how are we going to use it? Are we going to use it to develop and advance humanity, or are we going to use it to do things that are a detriment to humanity?
I'm glad you brought that up. So do you think is it really good or bad overall that we have the power to create a type of alternative reality?
Well, in some sense, I think that's a question misses the point. And I'll give an analogy. Is it a good or a bad idea that we can build a car? Well, I mean, the car allows me to drive multiple places, to haul people around, to take vacations, to help other people. And used improperly, like if I give it to my 5-year-old kid, they could go out and cause a lot of damage with it. The metaverse, to me, it's a big tool. The question is not whether it's good or bad. I think it's great. It's a reflection of how God has created us to and endowed us with the ability to create and advance and build technology. The big question in my mind is, how are we as humans going to use this? Because we're ultimately the people that are going to wield the tool.
Now, perhaps we got a bit of a taste of the potential impact of augmented reality after the film Avatar hit theaters. It's been said that with the beauty of the virtual world, people couldn't deal with the flatness of the real world. And especially maybe now, perhaps people are looking for escapism as they deal with the pandemic and so much depression and anxiety in our world today. What do you think?
I think that's a very big concern that we need to think seriously about. You could argue with a car that whether that's good or bad, you can kind of make the car and decide after the fact. But with this virtual reality metaverse type world, it may be before we're even aware of the problems arise, or before we can even do anything about them. And I think Avatar is a good example of that. We could give people this experience of being somewhere they weren't actually there, but it becomes kind of this very real experience. And yet now when you go back to the real world, it just doesn't seem like it's got the excitement or the beauty or the whatever. It's almost like when you take a drug or something, it makes things seem so much bland afterwards, and it takes a long time to recover. And I wonder if that's going to play out in the metaverse, that will make a world that is so engaging to be in that when we come back to the real world, it's just too depressing. And you saw suicide and depression rise after Avatar, and so that would be very detrimental to humanity. And we need to think about those sorts of things before we engage too deeply.
Jeff, some people say that the metaverse is like a spiritual counterfeit of God's universe, where we get to play God and put our world into a place we think it should be. What are your thoughts?
I'm certain that's going to be the temptation for many people, and I don't know how many, but quite honestly, when a lot of people look at God, they say, "Hey, I don't like the way He's done it. I don't like this and such thing going on." And so, the idea that we can go in and create our own reality, we think we will do it better. The reality of it is, when we exercise that out in the real world, very often, again, unless you come from very good values and well thought out, we tend to make things worse. And so the idea of creating our own reality so that we can play God historically has never worked out well. And so if we're using the multiverse or the metaverse to do that, I don't see good things coming from that. We're escaping from reality instead of living in the reality that God has designed.
Amen. Now, if the metaverse continues to grow, Jeff, could this end up being even more all-consuming than our current social media channels?
Well, that's the kind of reality we're building. You get to go in and choose, whether you're big, tall, smart, fat, whatever. You get to choose what it looks like. It will enable us to live in a fantasy world for so long. And again, coming out of that is going to be increasingly difficult. I consider myself a fairly disciplined, fairly rational person, and I find myself sucked into social media. Instead of taking time to pray or think about this problem or work on this, I want to scroll through Facebook for the next funny thing that might amuse me. I just think that's an inherent problem in humanity, that we want to look for those escapes. And the more the more draw, the more fascination, the more beautiful, the more intriguing the metaverse is, the more it's going to do that. And we may get so far in that we can't get ourselves out because the addictive power is too great.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff. I was just thinking to myself, if somebody were to create this perfect metaverse with a perfect life, perfect vacations, you're driving $1 million sports car, and then you leave that metaverse, come back to your real life in the real world, that may be crushing and disappointing, and then maybe you might even fall into depression. So there's that danger as well.
Absolutely. And one of the things I find ironic about this desire behind the metaverse, and again, I think there's a lot of good things we can do in the metaverse, medical things and educational things we could do. But the idea of building another reality that is better than this one that we get to design, what's fascinating about that is that if God is who he says he is, as revealed in scripture, that this world is a testing ground for that beautiful, perfect creation where there is no strife, where there's harmony among people, where there's all good, where you don't get tired, where you're accepted as you are, that God has created that place for us and has given us glimpses of it. And yet here we are trying to create that on earth instead of living and abiding by what he said it. And so it's kind of this odd, ironic situation where God has given us a desire for that, and we're choosing to fulfill it in a way that will probably cause a lot of damage instead of ultimately build humanity up.
I like how you touched on maybe the medical community and then maybe medicine in the metaverse. How can we potentially expand on that to really help mankind?
Well, I mean, the example I can think of is, you imagine a doctor who's got great expertise in diagnosing certain diseases. Well, right now, they're limited in terms of their ability to serve by financial constraints, but really more by how many people can come into the office, who can get there. So there's some sort of radius and time constraints on which people they can help. Now, imagine, if you will, setting up with relatively simple technology, just a room where people who have diseases can now come in and engage in that room. He can treat people, that doctor can treat people on the other side of the earth in remote villages with primitive technology to provide healthcare and access around the world that otherwise wouldn't have been available. I mean, there are just ideas like that, or the teaching opportunities of, imagine being able to take a virtual tour of the Grand Canyon where you could get down and see the rocks. There are just great opportunities because the better we can simulate it in the metaverse allows people to actually experience and learn and get real, tangible, real world benefits from it.
So, Jeff, in the end, is it really possible to escape the evils of this world to create a perfect one?
Well, I think you can make a very strong argument that the quote unquote evils of this world are ultimately related to how humanity manages the creation which God has given us. And so a lot of the tensions that you see are related to humanity's bad actions and poor choices. Well, humanity is the one that's wielding the metaverse. If we're the ones that have those problems, we're going to bring that into everything we create and make. And so the idea of building a metaverse that allows us to escape all the problems of the real world, that's just a pipe dream, because humanity is going to be the one doing that. Humanity is going to bring that same set of problems into the metaverse. So it's just not going to work to escape those problems.
I wonder what God's thoughts are as well, because, I mean, we're dealing with trials, tribulations here on this planet. He's helping us to grow and to learn along the way, and there's going to be pain along the way. And then we create this metaverse, which is completely perfect, and God's like, no, wait a minute, I've created that for you in heaven here, so don't worry about it, I've got it covered. What do you think?
I think God looks, I see an analogy in my children. It's like I look at them and I do things and want them to grow, and they do, but they make bad choices. And what's ironic is some of those bad choices is like the very thing they wanted, if they just listened to me, they would have gotten had they listened to it. And I think God's looking at it that's just like he wants the best, and realize, he's given us the ability to make choices. And he's there saying, oh, I've got so much better than what you're doing. Just please listen to me. This is the way to go. And yet we continue to go do things our own way. And he's very patient with us, very loving, and is always drawing us towards him. And so I don't think God's up there saying, they did it again, which is what I would do as a parent. But God's just saying, hey, I want what's best. And he's drawing us to him all the time.
Let me ask you something. With so many people hacking into other systems right now, all of the fraud going on in the world right now, the terrorism that's taking place, do you think that the metaverse could be used as a weapon to attack maybe Western civilization?
Well, if history is any indication, that's certainly people will try to do that. I can go back and give you an example of another place where people invented something so that the idea behind it was to allow this free spread of information, to advance scientific knowledge, to benefit of humanity, and it's what we now call the internet. The whole basis of the internet was to allow scientists and academics to exchange information more readily and to advance knowledge more rapidly. Well, look what we do now. We've got to set up firewalls and we've got to worry about spam and we spend a lot of effort trying to keep people from misusing this very powerful tool. Metaverse is going to be the exact same way, again, because humans are the one who ultimately are going to use it. And it's naive to think there aren't people who are going to want to use it to do damage, to advance their cause, whether it's good for humanity or not.
Dr. Jeff Zwerig is an astrophysicist with reasons to believe. Thanks so much for joining us today from Covina, California.
Thanks for having me here. Enjoyed our time together.
There are some beautiful towns in southern Alberta. Some are seeing populations dwindling while others are growing. Often they are places with friendly people and a more affordable cost of living, and yet they can also have challenges with drugs and crime. Joining me today is Jack Van Ryan. He is the newly elected mayor of Coaldale, Alberta. Welcome to Bridge City News, Jack. Thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Coaldale is a nice sized town. It does have most things that people need for shopping and some nice amenities. Maybe this is your chance to brag on Coaldale for a bit.
Well, when it comes to Coaldale, I have lots to brag about. I love it here so much that I've been a resident for over 65 years. The town of Coaldale is an emerging community, and we're just located in the heart of southern Alberta. And like you mentioned, we have a variety of amenities and recreation facilities and attractions. And our municipality combines the benefits of small town living with the service provision of large urban centers. So I'm very happy to not only be the mayor of Coaldale, and I'm even happier to be living here.
And for those who don't know, Coaldale is, I would say it's about 10 minutes down the highway from Lethbridge. Is that about right?
Yes, we're 10 minutes east, right on Highway 3, and at the main corridor intersection of Highway 3 and secondary Highway 845. And, for anybody that, when it comes to Coaldale, whether you're a developer or a business owner seeking the Coaldale advantage, a prospective home buyer looking for a friendly neighborhood, or just a couple looking to retire, our community has something for everyone. So come pay us a visit.
And what's the population these days of Coaldale?
We're just on the edge of 9,000 residents. And based on historical growth rate of 2.37%, we're going to be hitting a population of 10,000 in late 2024. And our actual growth rate based on our municipal census that we did in 2019 showed a population growth rate of 5.8%. So we're growing.
I had no idea it was that big. That's amazing. So, there's so many different things happening in Coaldale right now. Tell us a little bit about the plans for Coaldale's new rec center. I understand that the cost estimate has gone up by several $1 million. Can you maybe explain the reason for that increase? And what are the plans to deal with that without a big tax bump?
So the multi-use recreation center is a joint project along with Palliser School Division with a new high school. Kate Andrews High School is getting replaced, and it's scheduled to open in 2024. And it's going to hold 855 students, and it's a K-12 school. And the whole project, as far as the multi-use rec center, started in 2017. And when I was on council back then, we had a delegation come and do a presentation to council regarding the need for a recreation center. And that included a indoor soccer facility. So back then we we budgeted, I shouldn't say we budgeted, we transferred $1 million from our reserves to use as seed money to get this project on the go. And then back in 2018, when we started working with a working group we refer to as the Sport Recreation Working Group, we took out a $10 million debenture loan to get this project going. And then in May of 2020, we did a community information center where we had over 500 people give us input on what they would like to see in this facility. And then once the design came back from that, we were at 13 million. Wow. And then back in December, we had our third tender close, and the price had risen to $18,879,000. So we worked with our consultants to see if we were to hit the pause button, let's say for 3 to 5 years, to see if the price of steel and such would settle down. And we were told that if we were to wait and we were going to do this as a standalone facility, because right now it's a joint venture. In other words, it's attached to the new high school. The project would have came in at over $25 million. So then we decided to go ahead with it. And the concrete pilings, the footings are being installed right now as we speak, and they should be done by the end of this week. So that's where we're at right now. And then the school project is worth over 40 million. So the combined cost between the new high school and the new rec center, we're at 59,384,000 and change. So it's a huge project for the town of Golden.
That is a huge project. Now, did the supply chain issues have anything to do with not being able to find those supplies and having to seek them out elsewhere and having the price go up?
Well, it has to do, and everybody uses COVID as an excuse. So again, it affected us. And it's not that they're able to find the items, like they have suppliers for them, but there's such a delay on getting the product here. And again, I can use steel as an example. And that was a huge increase, not only for the multi-use rec center, but also for the high school, with a 21% increase in steel. And it doesn't look like it's going to be getting any better. So we didn't want to delay this any further. And we're looking forward to having this facility up and running in 2024.
Mm-hmm. So are there any plans for how to deal with that excess costs without having it affect the citizens with a big tax bump?
Well, we're looking at a shortfall of a little over $3 million. And we've had some options presented by our administration staff to council. And a couple of them are to, first of all, I should say that, this project isn't going to be ready till 2024. And some of the major costs won't be coming until the last quarter of 2023. So we have some time to secure this shortfall of funding that we need. And a couple of the options that we're going to be looking at is we're going to hire a professional grant writer that's going to work on a commission basis, looking for both provincial and federal grants. And right now we have a group referred to as Coldell Strong. It's a fundraising committee that we set up. And so far we've been successful in raising just shy of $700,000 towards the new multi-rec center. And we're going to increase our goal to $2 million for that. We also have a little over $1.3 million remaining in some MSI capital funds that we have that we're going to redirect towards this project. And then at the end of the day, if we're not successful with our grants and our fundraising, we will be looking at taking out a $1.7 million debenture to add on to our existing $10 million one we currently have for the facility. And it's something that council firmly believes in, and it's something that we are excited to see happen, that this is finally going to get built after all this time. And this new facility, it's a it's a dry sport facility, so there's no aquatics, so no swimming pool going there. But it's going to have a fully equipped fitness center. And we have a local fitness center in Coldell right now called Twisted Steel. So they've signed a letter of understanding that they're going to be moving into there. And they're going to have over 7,000 square feet of space for their fitness area. We're also going to have squash, basketball, volleyball, pickleball, badminton, soccer. We're going to have play centers, both indoor and outdoor. We're going to have a daycare facility. We're going to have, we're looking at having after school youth programs, and we're going to have athletic youth, adult, and senior. We're going to have opportunities there for birthday parties. We've got meeting rooms.
It sounds like a city within a town there that you're building.
And we also have on the soccer pitch, we're going to be able to have concerts, trade shows. We're going to be able to host up to 1,000 people in that space. And we're looking forward to large scale tournaments. We're looking at hosting the summer games in the near future.
Wow, it sounds like quite a rec center. Like I was saying, it sounds like a city built right within a town. You can kind of do everything and anything in there. Sounds like it's going to be amazing. So, I mean, lots of things to do in Coaldale. And in addition, you guys are considering the possibility of building a new skate park, or at least improving your current facility. Has anyone made a decision on that yet?
So regarding the park, we have a program that we use in Coaldale. We've used it with the rec center, and we're using it currently right now with a group called Waves and Blades. It's to do with looking at replacing our aging swimming pool with either an indoor and outdoor pool, and also looking at a second sheet of ice. So that group is working right now on coming back with some costs for some projects. And we also use the same format as far as a working group goes for a new mountain bike park that just opened up here a few months ago here in Coaldale. And these working groups are made up of citizens that have a vested interest in whatever recreation component we're discussing. So in regards to the skate park, we have over 22 residents, I believe, that are involved in that, including myself. And then we have some of our administration team kind of quarterbacking the entire project. And what happens is that we're actually having our first meeting tonight, and we're going to discuss things like either replacing the existing one, like we have one in the south side of Coaldale that's, I'm going to say, 25 years old, that the Kinsman Club of Coaldale built originally. So we're either looking at redoing that one or building it elsewhere. So this group will come up with some ideas, and then we'll open it up more to the community for some input. And then probably not until later this year, we'll come up with as to where it's going to go and what the design is going to look like.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of activity happening in Coaldale, and it sounds like these could be potential jobs too in the future. What's the economic situation like right now in Coaldale? Are businesses doing relatively well, or are there still struggles in the wake of COVID?
Well, I firmly believe that our economic atmosphere in Coaldale is doing extremely well. So much so that we have recently, I shouldn't say recently, we put in a new industrial park, over $5 million invested there, and it's sold out 5 years sooner than we expected it to. And if you were to take a drive through our industrial park to see the businesses that are being set up in there, it's amazing to see that there's that much interest in Coaldale. And because of the industrial park being sold out, we just had a meeting with some private investors that are developing a new industrial park that's connected to the west of our existing industrial park. And there's going to be 80 acres being developed right now, with a future 80 acres coming on stream in the future. So Coaldale is open for business, and we're doing very well when it comes to our industrial park.
It sounds like it. What are the advantages to opening up a business in a smaller community like yours as opposed to, say, a bigger center like Lethbridge?
The big thing for Coaldale is that our tax rate. So based on our residential mill rate, we're 9% lower than the city of Lethbridge. And the big ticket item for Coaldale in attracting business is that our mill rate is 55% lower than the city of Lethbridge. So here we're located 10 minutes east of Lethbridge, ideally located, like I say, to the highways. And we're 55% cheaper on our mill rate than our partners in Lethbridge.
Mm-hmm. Would the same go for, say, somebody moving there, like the benefits of living in the smaller community? Would you say kind of the benefits are the same? Less traffic, more affordable housing, perhaps, lower property taxes?
Our residential property mill rate is just under 9% cheaper than Lethbridge. So that's another big attraction for Coaldale. And we have several developments going on right now, residential developments. So there's very large opportunity. I was speaking with a real estate agent last week, and they were saying that our Cottonwood subdivision has the hottest residential market right now in southern Alberta. And it's a beautiful development. And we have some more coming on stream. A good one, too, is by the new high school and the rec center. We have 66 acres of residential land that's going to be coming up there as well. And we're working with some developers as we speak on them securing that and working on area structure plan as far as what that's going to look like in the future. And then we have another large development just west of Coaldale that's going to be starting. I just heard day before yesterday actually that they're hoping to get shovels in the ground there this year yet. So lots of opportunity here in Coaldale.
Oh, it sounds like it. And there's so much more I want to talk to you about, but we are running short on time. So I'm just going to say thank you so much for joining me today, Jack. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Absolutely. Jack Van Ryan is the mayor of Coaldale, Alberta, newly elected a few months ago. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.